bienvenidos a todos. Welcome, everybody. We are back for our last workshop on Corrido Songwriting. This is our third segment. In the past, we did a segment on the history and the definition of corridos dating back to 180 years ago. Last week, we looked at the poetic rules of how to write a corrido, how to count syllables, how to rhyme, and how to structure the narrative arc of corridos. This week, we said that we were gonna write a corrido. So we're gonna spend the next hour writing an original corrido. So I had left you a little bit of homework to come up with some topics for possible corridos. If we review a little bit, corridos are typically written about a person, and typically that person is the victim of the corridos. They die off in the process of the corrido, or something bad happens to them. So some of the best material for corridos are tragic events where the victim has an opportunity to show some of qualities of valor, courage, defiance in the face of a dangerous situation. And these are not always like squeaky clean individuals. I mean, sometimes these are outlaws. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share with you a document. You know, Monica can also put this in the chat. This is a Google Doc where if you click on it, you will have access to this window where we will be writing the corrido. So just click on it, and everyone should be able to write into that document simultaneously. This is a wonderful thing. So after we do a little brainstorm, we're going to follow the structure of corridos. I can share this with you right here. There it is. Let's review the outline. We're going to start choosing our subjects. Say, for instance, we pick Abraham Lincoln. In the headline, we want to say, just like the headline of a newspaper, we're going to say, what happened? Abraham Lincoln was shot in 1865 at the Ford Theater in Washington, D.C. He was shot by William Booth, an actor. That's captivating, gets our attention. If we can have the year and the place and all the factual things, then we are hooked and we want to listen to more. The corrido singer may also say, I want to ask for your permission to tell this story, etc. So we move on to the introduction of the characters. We talk about Abraham Lincoln was an honest man and he did good things for his country, and William Booth was a frustrated actor and he had a grudge, you know, introducing our characters. And by the way, in the beginning, we don't have to do this in verse. We're just going to fill in the boxes with as much information as we have. And then we have the warning. Somebody, maybe Abraham Lincoln's wife, you know, tells him, you know, I don't feel like going to the theater tonight. You've taken very bold steps leading this country. I'm sure there's people who don't like you, something like that. And then number 4, we have the defiance. This is when the hero begins to show their defiant qualities and their bravado. They'll say, oh, don't worry, nothing's gonna happen to me, or I am the president, I'm untouchable. Why would anyone want to kill me? Number 5, we have a confrontation or an exchange between the victim and the perpetrator. In this case, Lincoln never met Booth. In a different scenario, there could have been a showdown where they say, you've done wrong to this country, and Lincoln says, no, I have not, and they just have an exchange. That's followed by a tragic outcome where we describe in detail what happened. He was approached from behind, he shot him in the neck. And number 7 will be the moral of the story, kind of like wrapping up the story in retrospect. This is what we could have learned from this. And then we have a little formula at the end of the farewell, if you remember. What was the animal at the end of the corridos? Anybody remember?
Paloma.
La paloma. Vuela, vuela, palomita. Fly, oh little dove. And if you can fly. And this is the end of the corrido about Lincoln. So yeah, this is like a little formula. Of course, we can tweak it depending on the subject. But hey, let's begin with a little brainstorm. Let me throw this out to Any characters that you'd like to, or any subjects that you think might be good for corridos? What do you think? How about you, Ashley? You're an expert.
Not at all. Nowhere near, like at all. I learned so much through this workshop too. I was so excited. So
Okay,
I was thinking about this old lady. She's Korean, and she
okay.
got on the headlines because when she was 18 years old, she was assaulted by a man, but she was placed in jail a longer time than the man because when she was defending herself, she like ripped the tongue off the man. And
Oh,
it,
wow.
and it was and her case was used as an example of the court's failure of defending like recognizing self-defense, you know, during sexual
Okay.
violence. Like he was trying to like assault her, sexually assault her. And she
Yeah.
defended herself as 18, but she went to jail for defending herself. And then now as an older
Oh.
grandma, you know, she was finally given justice and the court apologized. I know it's going too far
She's
off,
been in
but
jail this long? Yeah.
no, she
Okay,
was
no,
in
that
jail,
that
but
could be.
it was like on her record. Like it was on her record
Okay.
for a really long time and it affected her entire life after.
Oh,
Just
wow.
yeah, 'cause she
Okay.
was
So
convicted.
do you have a name and some dates, or were you
I
able to
I
find
put
them?
it in the chat. That's her name. Choi Mal. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that,
Yeah,
but
Miss Toy. Yeah.
Okay.
no, I just put it in the document, yes.
Oh, Choi Malja.
So this
Okay.
happened. She was convicted in 1965.
But this could very well end up being a corrido. But I wanna hear from other people. Okay. Maria, how about you?
Actually, I think this is a really good person to have a song written about because
Yeah.
it's been 60 years since his time, and I just can't get over that it took so long.
Oh my God.
And what happened to the person who was attempting to assault her?
Right.
And things like this are things that should have been dealt with so many years ago. So I think this is a perfect kind of a person to sing about and write about.
Well, let's not waste any more time and let's
Yeah.
get into it. Monica's writing a little more information about her. So, Ashley was convicted of a grievous bodily harm in 1965 by biting the tongue of a man attempting to rape her. After decades of fighting a clear in her name, her conviction was overturned September 2025. Oh my God. The assault was 1964. 18-year-old Choi Malja was sexually assaulted by a 21-year-old man in the South Korean city of Gimhae. Oh, okay, this happened in South Korea. The man pinned her to the ground in an act of self-defense. Choi bit off about 1.5 centimeters of his tongue. Choi's attacker was initially sued for attempted rape, but those charges were dropped by prosecutors. Instead, he sued Choi for inflicting grievous bodily harm, and she was convicted and sentenced to 10 months in prison, suspended for 2 years. Her attacker received a lighter sentence for trespassing and intimidation. Okay. South Korea was a deeply patriarchal society, legal experts. All right, so what we have to do here, we need to break this up into a corrido format. Okay, so the title is gonna be the victim of this tragedy is Choi Malja. So we're gonna call this a corrido of Choi Malja. There you go, corrido of Choi Malja. So we're gonna transfer some of this information. So this is in the, she was convicted in 1965, but the assault was in 1964. In the location, Gimhae, South Korea. So in 1964, in Gimhae, South Korea, Choi Mal-ja was unfairly convicted to, because there must have been like life, right? 60 years in prison. So here we're going to say, listen to this corrido, listen to what I'm about to say. pay attention because I'm going to tell you the story of Choi Mal-ja, who was unfairly convicted of 60 years in prison for an act of self-defense against a man who was trying to rape her. Now we have to say something about her. Choi Mal-ja was, what do we know? Was an 18-year-old young woman. What else do we know about her?
I think she was only in jail 10 months. I think it was on her record for 60 years.
Oh, okay. She was in prison for, okay, she was
Yeah,
convicted.
10. Like she was convicted, but they gave her 10 months, but it was in her record,
Yes.
like for 60 years, like on her record.
So she was unfairly convicted for an act of self-defense. It took her 60 years to clear her criminal record. Okay. Is that a pretty accurate there? So Choi Mai-ja was an 18-year-old young woman growing up in a patriarchal society where proving her innocence against a man in court was a losing battle from the start. But she was a defiant person who would not give in to an attack, and she knew how to defend herself. I don't know if anyone warned her about this, but maybe we can work the patriarchal society thing into here and said she should have known that.
Could it be like, could it be a warning to men instead of like for her? So this is a warning, like you might get your tongue bitten off if you try to kiss someone, instead of like that's the warning.
So, but warning has to be for the victim. In the part where there's a confrontation, she could say, if you come any closer, I'm going to bite your tongue off.
Okay.
That's where she has that dialogue. But the victim of the tragedy needs to have some kind of premonition of sorts where they can show their defiance. They can say,
Okay.
I will not give in to someone who attacks. If anyone ever tries to attack me, they're going to know who I am, no matter the consequences, something like that. And okay, it says something about her lawyers, right? That they were, Choi's attacker was initially sued for attempted rape, but those charges were dropped by prosecutors. In an act of defiance, now she's going to show Choi Mal-ja was not one to take an attack sitting down. She knew. Yeah. How else would she be defiant? She knew that she would be vindicted sooner or later.
Well, she even says something like, I could not let this case go unanswered. I wanted to stand up for other victims who share the same fate as mine.
Oh yeah? Is
Yeah,
that
I'm gonna
is that
put
up here?
there's an actual quote from her.
Oh, good, good. Okay.
I'm gonna write it.
Yeah, put it in that same in the defiant section. Now we're gonna start in a few minutes turning these descriptions into coplas, into like stanzas. Compress all this information into 4 lines, and then once we put them all together, magically our corrido is gonna start surfacing. Okay, maybe I'm thinking that this quote reflects that the tragedy has already happened, so this is a little bit out of place here, but I'm gonna put it on the moral of the story. Now we see her in confrontation with the guy who walks up to her. So the perpetrator, okay, this is the tragedy right here. The man pinned her to the ground. This is the actual event. Something like that. Okay. And then we have the farewell section where she says, what's the name of her city? Busan. And no, we have to say that after her acquittal, which did not come until September, does it just happen?
Yeah, I think it just happened like yesterday or.
She didn't run and hide after the attack. Inspired by the Me Too movement, Choi, now in her 70s, decided to pursue a retrial in 2020 to overturn her unjust conviction, which did not come until September 2025. Finally, Ms. Choi, now in her 70s, said after the acquittal, "I could not let this case go unanswered. I wanted to stand up for other victims who share the same fate as mine." So fly, fly, O little dove, fly from Gimhae to Busan, the two cities that are where she comes from. This is the end of the corrido. Justice was served, even after a long time. Okay, let's begin turning this into some poetry. Now, I'm going to try something new in this corrido workshop, being that we are pressed for time. I've been following this artificial intelligence lately, and I wondered whether the intelligence can write corridos. So I try to train this robot to write corridos, and as much as I explained the rules that I gave you last week with the length of the verses and how they have to rhyme, you know, I thought I had this algorithm for how to write a corrido, but it was not able to do it. But just before these workshops, I jumped in again now that the ChatGPT has been progressed into more sophisticated intelligence. And while it's still not as good as humans, it is remarkable, some of the things that it does. So what I'm going to do is we're going to try to write a couple of stanzas to see how we can do it. And then we're going to plug all this information and see what ChatGPT can spew out in terms of a corrido. I've written a prompt with all the rules. So we'll see how it does. So if any of you have never experienced this AI, this would be a good chance to take a peek into how these machines operate. Anyway, let's try a stanza right here. Headline. So we have to do stanzas. So it always helps me to have a melody in my head. Ba 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 bam ba 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 da ba 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 da ba 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 da ba 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 da. That's a melody for a corrido. So if we begin to sing along, we're automatically all those 8 syllables are going to fall into place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If we can do it and with an accent on 7, we should be in good shape. So if I say something like, it was 1964, it was 1964. How many syllables? It was 1964. 7, right? So we have the accent on 7. It was 1964. All right. In the town of South Korea. In a town of South Korea. That's 7. Now we have to start thinking about something that rhymes with Korea, or we'll have to change that line. Choi Mal-ja. Choi Mal-ja was thrown in jail. She was unfairly convicted. Now, we need to make these things to rhyme. In the town of South Korea, with she was unfairly convicted. So one of these has to change. Okay, let's think about words that rhyme with convicted. The outcome was predetermined by the patriarchal system. Okay, let's try one more. We can always come back and fix this. Let's try introducing her. She was just 18 years old. She was just 18 years old. So we're introducing her characters, like what was she like? What was her world like? let's get to know her a little better, because we haven't said anything about who she is. She was just 18 years old, growing in a patriarchal society. She was a defiant person, but
With
she
a lot of
always was
dreams
a
and
fighter.
hopes.
That has 8 syllables. Let's see if we can find something that rhymes with hopes or fight. We could pick one of those two.
Maybe like she would stick with what was right or something.
Oh, that right with fight, yeah. She would stand for what was right. Okay, how's that? So, okay, you see the process, how this happens. Now let me open a little window here into the AI. Take a look at what this can do for us. I had some chats with this project already, so it has some background on corridos, but I'm gonna paste, this is what's called a prompt, and I'm gonna say, I want you to help us write a corrido in English with a topic and details that I will provide for you. I want you to follow the stylistic rules that we have discussed before. The verses need to be strictly eight syllables long, or with an accent on the 7th syllable. The rhyme scheme needs to be strictly ABCB, using 4-line stanzas, and you should never rhyme a word with itself, because it was kind of tending to do that. The narrative arc should follow a plot line where each stanza addresses the following elements. Okay, and I'm gonna paste, there it is. So it says, I want you to greet the audience in the first person and ask for their attention and permission to sing about a tragic event. It's just what I explained to you before. The introduction of the characters needs to be in the third person, blah, blah, blah. Everything that we went through before. So now the story will be about, and now we copy this stuff that we have here. I'm just going to copy all this stuff. There. So I just copied everything that we did. We'll see how, if it makes sense of all of this. Okay, so now the machine's going. Perfect. It's going to look at the speed of this thing. Oh my God. Okay. Thank you for laying out the arc and detail so clearly. I drafted a corrido choma ya, following your rules, strict octosyllabic meter with stress on the 7th syllable, rhyme scheme ABCB, 4-line stanzas, narrative arc. Okay, here's your corrido. Wow. Oh, listen close, my friends, I say, a tale of grief and pain. In Gimhae town, South Korea, they doomed young Choi Man-ja's name. She was just 18 years of age, her spirit fierce and bright. In courts where men would rule the day, she vowed to stand and fight. Her elders warned, don't challenge them, their gavel strikes like stone. A woman's voice will break apart, you'll face this fight alone. Not bad. Okay? Here comes a challenge. But Choi declared, I fear no man, my courage will not fail. Though time may drag a lifetime long, true justice conquers all. Okay, here comes the confrontation. The man advanced and pinned her down. She cried, now you will pay. He forced his mouth against her lips. She bit his tongue away. That sounds like the tragedy itself, but tragedy. 1.5 short centimeters. That's 1.5 short centimeters. That's 9. Okay. Was torn beneath the sun. The court condemned her 10 months jail, while he walked free undone. For 60 years she bore the scar, yet never bowed in shame. At last the court in Busan said her act was not a blame. So fly, O dove, from Gimhae's hills to Bursand Harbor wide. Thank you, my friends, for hearing this of Choi Maja's long stride. What do you think? It's not bad. I think we need to fix a few things here, but I'm gonna attempt to sing this as a culmination of this workshop. But you see the process. I hope it was helpful to just kind of rush us through this. Let's let me move this computer over here, and on share, you can see me now. Okay, can you see me? Yes. Okay, here it goes. Oh, listen close. Listen close, my friends. Okay, listen close, my friends. I say a tale of grief and pain on Gimhae Town, South Korea. They doom young Chon Maya's name. She was just 18 years of age, her spirit fierce and bright. In courts where men would rule the day, she would vow to stand and fight. Her elders warned, don't challenge them. A gavel strikes like stone, a woman's voice will break apart. You'll face this fight alone. But Choi declared, I fear no man, my courage will not fail, though time may drag lifetime long, true justice conquers all. I mean, I'm sure we can make this better if we worked at it a little bit. The man advanced and pinned her down, she cried, now you will pay. She forced his mouth against his lips, she bit his tongue away. 1.5 short centimeters was torn beneath the sun. The court condemned her 10 months in jail, while he walked free undone. For 60 years she bore the scar, yet never bowed in shame. At last the court in Busan said her act was not a blame. Okay. So fly, O dove, from Gimhae's hills to Busan's harbor wide. Thank you, my friends, for hearing this of Joy Malja's long stride. Dun, 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 dun. Well, you see the challenges here. I don't think the artificial intelligence is taking our jobs away as corrido singers, but you know, if we compare it to the one that we wrote, this might work a little better. It was 1964 when Choi Malja was convicted in Gimhae, South Korea, where the outcome was predicted. She was just 18 years old, in her spirit fierce and bright. In the courts where men would rule, she'd stand up for what was right. Don't contest them, said her elders, claiming rape and self-defense. For a woman in a man's world, it does not make any sense. But Choi say, I fear no man, and though it may take some time, I will stick to my true story. What I have done is no crime. Then she told him what had happened, that the man had pinned her down. When he forced his lips against her, she bit off his tongue and frowned. The man sued her for assault, and he walked away home free. She was sentenced to 10 months, 'twas the court's final decree. 60 years she bore the scar, but she never bowed in shame. Then in 2025, court said she was not to blame. A dove flies from Gimhae hills with a ribbon in its paw. Thank you, friends, for your attention to the story of Choi Malja. It flows a little better. So I would say that humans are still doing better on corrido writing. Okay. All right. Well, I hope this was helpful to write corridos. Of course, if you want to write a corrido, and I encourage you to do that, take these rules and, definitely take more than an hour for doing it. But this is how the other challenge that we have is we're writing it in English. I mean, the corridos, that 8-syllable verse kind of blends much better in Spanish, but it isn't impossible to do in English. I've done many already, but they do take a little longer. So, well, thank you very much, everybody, for joining us for these 3 weeks.
Gracias, Adriana.
All right, take
Gracias.
care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you.